In some parallel dimension, President McCain and Speaker Tom DeLay are having a big old laugh about RNC Chairman Rove's brilliant win of those filibuster-proof majorities. Our fourth story tonight, this reality and the battle royale caged death match once known as the Republican Party. First, RNC's real chair, Michael Steele, and his real problems, and get out your abacus, kid. One former Speaker, Newt Gingrich, last night, quote, if the Republican Party quits worrying about the Republican Party from the chairman down and focuses on what America needs, we'll do fine. Two, Senator Earl Inspector today after Steele threatened him with a primary challenger for having voted pro-stimulus. Quoting Specter, he said so many contradictory things I wouldn't pay a whole lot of attention to him. Three, unnamed GOP Senate aide, quote, I think on the Republican Senate side people are justifiably unhappy with how Steele's tenure has started. And four, maybe, South Carolina Chairman Caton Dawson, failed aspirant for Steele's job, reported by PoliticalWire.com, as having organized a no-confidence vote in the chairman. Dawson now proclaiming his support for Steele without actually saying, no, he's not organizing such a vote. So who can unite this fractured party with fresh new ideas? I give you, he gives himself, John McCain. Huffington Post having obtained a McCain staffer's email suggesting that McCain is preparing to reclaim the mantle of party leader by introducing a 21st century version, or is it 19th century version, of Gingrich's Contract with America. The best part, other than no tax increases, McCain, who famously claimed to have suspended his campaign last year so he could race to Washington to solve our economic crisis personally, he doesn't know what's in this plan yet. The email went to an outside advisor, quote, looking for some guidance on a definitive plan on the economy. 10 principles that McCain could point to on what must be done. Well, he's got the one about no tax cuts, but you heard the man. Somebody emailed John McCain some principles. But only 9 of them. He only needs 9 of them. Let's bring in Democratic strategist Chris Kofinas, former communications director on the Edwards campaign. Chris, thanks for your time tonight.
Thanks, Keith.
March 20th, Mr. Steele releases his February fundraising report to the RNC. How's he going to do on that? Because roll call says he is yet to hire a chief of staff or a research director or a field director or a political director or a finance director.
Well, I can't imagine it's going to be good unless people are donating out of sympathy. But, you know, the problem for Michael Steele isn't fundraising. The problem with Michael Steele is he is a message disaster and a distraction to the party. And I think what you're seeing every day, it seems to get worse. And what you're starting to see from, you know, various factions within the Republican Party is this growing call for him to go. Again, a very strong indication of how bad a job he is doing going out there and selling whatever semblance of a Republican message exists.
And yet, the Associated Press had a story yesterday that said state GOP leaders are still supporting this man. Why would we find a schism between criticism of Steele in D.C. and support outside the Beltway?
Well, part of it's ideological. Now, if you can believe it, there are factions, again, within the Republican Party, especially within the RNC, that think that Michael Steele isn't conservative enough. Apparently, they want a leader of the RNC who's even more out of touch. The other part, to be frank, is, you know, from top to bottom, this is a rudderless party. They have no leaders, they have no message, they have no direction, and Michael Steele is, if you will, becoming the punching bag for a lot of those frustrations. I think what they have to come to terms with is they really don't have anyone better unless they're trying to recruit maybe one of the former bank CEOs to take over the RNC. He probably would do, or she would probably do about as good a job as Michael Steele, but they have a very big problem because of the way this party is infighting right now.
Should Democrats be worried about Steele or worried about the possibility that he might not be there much longer? I mean, if he's ticking off both Boss Limbaugh and congressional Republicans, doesn't that sound like a necessary first step for anybody who wants to save his own party? Don't they basically have to get rid of those people if the Republicans want to be, have enough money to field a candidate in 2012?
Well, speaking at least this Democrat, and I think a lot of others, I don't think there's many Democrats in the entire world that are worried about the RNC and Michael Steele right now. Listen, the Republican Party has a very difficult problem, and one that needs to be addressed. They're not going to address it. They seem to ignore the fact that the country has moved in a different direction, that the last election, the country moved ideologically to the left. It is a completely different country. They seem to continue to embrace these right-wing voices like Rush Rush Limbaugh and Tom DeLay and all these others. And they're not realizing the country wants a different type of direction and different type of policies. I mean, let me put it even more frankly. The Republican Party needs an ideological vasectomy. They need to cut off these voices if they have any chance of moving forward. But they're not going to do that because, unfortunately, these are the voices that are cloning the next generation of Republicans. And so they're creating this death spiral where they continue to put leaders out there who basically alienate even more moderates and even more independents. And what they're doing, in fact, is embracing the very fringe elements that put them in this position as to where they are right now, which is a losing party.
It's a lot of reproduction in that metaphor. How embarrassingly metaphoric is it to have the party's last presidential candidate actively throwing himself out there as the man who's going to present these economic principles to believe in, and then this email surfacing, he needs 10 of them and he's only got the one.
You know, it's really kind of sad, actually, and that John McCain is trying to step up and lead this party. I think what John McCain and his advisors don't seem to understand that no one in the party is listening or going to want to listen. And now, put aside the fact that they have 9 principles left to go. I kind of think back when President Obama and others say this is the Republican Party is the party of no. They really are the party of no ideas and no clue. Until they figure out where they want to go and real ideas that appeal to the American people, they're going to continue this kind of, as I said, death spiral.
John McCain, the man with principles to be named later. Democratic strategist Chris Kofinas. Thanks for chuckling along with us, Chris.
Thanks, Keith.